know librarians are deeply neurotic people, but we like to put little labels on the book because it's like their location. A long time ago, I taught elementary school, and how I explained it was this was like their address, and they lived in neighborhoods. Mr. Crocker is going to show you how the numbers go up. So if you think of it like a street, how the numbers go up, and that's how you're going to find your book. You'll look on here, find the number, and then you can find it on the shelves. But Mr. Crocker is going to show you, okay, thank you, Mr. Crocker. See how he's starting? He's showing you the books go down a row, then another row. He's giving you an idea. Now we're going through the 800s. That's like the literature neighborhood, and he's stopping. He gets to the end. That's the 900s, and there'll be some of those for mostly for biographies for the authors. But that gives you an idea of how the books flow and where you should look for them. Okay, we're so glad you're here today. We're going to help you do the research. Let's kind of set it up for your research paper. I'm Ms. Yonkin, one of the librarians.
I'm Mr. Crocker, one of the English teachers.
And really, I promise, this sounds bad. This is kind of boring, but if you listen and if you pay attention, it'll make it so much easier. Because you're going to be here for a lot of time in the library. But if you get this right at the beginning, it's going to make the whole trip easier. Think of it that way. If you pack your bags right, the trip will go smoothly. So we're going to help you do that. So one of the first things you do is get out your sheet that says The Wonderful World of Gale reference books. Make sure you put your name, your book or play, and your author. Because what happens is you're making these sheets specifically for you. Yours isn't going to be like anybody else's. So if you have it and you, oh my God, you lose it. Oh no, you won't have lost all that research. If your name's on here, I can get it back to you. So I know it sounds very third grade, but please make sure your name is on your paper. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to go over the reference sections and things that'll help you write your paper. There are two basic areas. One of them is called, I guess the Gale section. Yeah, the Gale section, which I don't explain very well. It's kind of like I tell a joke and leave out part of it. I'm not good at explaining this. Mr. Crocker is. He's going to do that, and then I'll do the other reference books. So I turn it over to Mr. Crocker.
Okay, so the first page of your packet is The Wonderful World of Gale reference books. I absolutely love Gale because they do all of the hard work for you. They take all the references that you could find out in the library and they put them into specific books. We have 5 different types of Gale books here that we utilize. The first one is the 19th century literature criticism. Now, that's the first set of boxes on your paper, and you will notice above the boxes it says in the beige index, which is a title index, cumulative by title, right? So if you are doing a book from the 19th century, that would be the 1800s, you would look up your book in this index by title. So if I am doing Mark Twain's The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, I would look up The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn in this beige index. You would then mark down which volumes of the 19th century literature criticism it's in the far right box on your packet. That's all you have to do. You don't need to go to the books. You don't need to do anything with them. Just mark down which of the books it is in.
And we want money for every time somebody said, Mark Twain isn't in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark Twain's not in there because it's not by author.
Title.
It's by title. Now, the 4 boxes below are also Gale books, and we subscribe to 4 of those types of books. As a public school library, we can't afford all of the books that Gale publishes because they publish hundreds. But we do have some really good ones that are helpful to you. To find which books we have, Gale has published this blue index. And you look in the blue index for your author's last name, and then you find their first name, and you look for the 4 types of books that we have. AAYA, which is authors and artists for young adults. We have AITN, which is authors in the news. We have CLC, which is contemporary literary criticism. And we have TCLC, which is 20th century literature criticism. All of those books are over in the reference section that I toured earlier. You can see that they're this lovely shade of doo-doo brown, and it is the Gale color. You have no need to look in these books, any of these books right now, because all of them are listed in this blue index here. You would look up your author by last name, and then in the boxes on the far right, again, you would write down which volumes they appear in. If your author does not appear in a certain set of books, if I look and William Faulkner is not in AAYA, I put an X in the box. If he does appear in AAYA, I write which volume it is in. And I do the same for AITN, CLC, and TCLC. Some of the more contemporary authors will not be in any of these, in which case you will have to check online. Miss Aline will talk to you about the online resources.
Now, I don't know if this makes sense, guys. What these books are, the reason these are so valuable to you is because back in the day when we were younger, you used to have to do your research. You would go like, oh, okay, it's in the Kenyon Review of Literature, and you'd have to find that magazine and make copies of it. You're like, oh, it's in Literature for Students, 1986. Oh, okay, you'd run and you'd get that and make that copy. Well, what Gale did is like, we're not going to make you run. We're not going to make you do all that. We're going to put all of it together in one book. So what's going to happen here, guys, is you might be able to find 5 or 6 sources just in one book, and that's why this is so valuable. So I promise, if it can pay attention, if it can make sense, it may be golden for you. You may find a lot of things that you can use.
Because you need 10 sources for your paper. This one book, even though it looks like one book, it may have 5 or 6 sources in that book because they're all separate. So that's the wonderful world of Gale. If you turn the page of your packet, we'll then talk about the reference sources to check for literature papers. Ms. Yonkin, take it away.
And again, this is the section where Mr. Crocker was running up and down the aisles. That's for these books. Guys, what you're going to do is you're going to look and see, does this library have anything on my author that I can use in my book? That's all we're doing today. So one of the things you're going to do, and I was a student who believed in shortcuts. I'm not going to do extra work if I don't have to. So you might want to look at the titles. The titles will sometimes tell you something. So like, my book is Beloved by Toni Morrison. Okay, when you look through this, Drama for Students, that's a book if you have a play. Well, that's not a play, so I would mark that off, X. Notable playwrights, X. I don't need that. Writers for children. Oh, you would not let a child read Beloved. It's hard to read as an adult. It's heartbreaking. So anyway, so you just mark ones off. That's going to be on your list right away. You're not going to have to look in every book.
That's right. My author is William Faulkner. And while this sounds silly, he was a white man from the South, right? He is not going to show up in something like Modern Black Writers or Notable African American Writers. Knowing this about William Faulkner allows me to save time on a few of the pages because I can put X's in those boxes right away.
So really, that's why they have you do the author research. So if you know the gender and the race, it really will narrow down your search.
Exactly.
Okay, real fast, we're going to tell you about novels for students. Fantastic. If your book's in here, you are golden. Okay, this is a nerdy term, cumulative index. Okay, because you're going to use all kinds of different books in reference section. This is part of the hunt and pack. We call it what flea market? No.
Flea market find.
Yes. Seek and find. That's the seek and find of information. Okay. Cumulative index. That means we have 45 volumes right now. So volume 1 through 13 gives you an index for everything from 1 through 13. 30 does 1 through 30. Now think about this. I swear it's logical. Some people get it and some people, I swear, don't. But it really makes sense. Cumulative index. I don't want to look through a bunch of books. I was a lazy student somewhat. I will not lie. I didn't want to do extra if I didn't have to. I'd go to the last one because it's going to tell me everything from 1 through 45. So I'm going to go to the index in the back for the author and look up my author there. So, for the sake of argument, and I realize this is an American author, forgive me, we have Wuthering Heights. Like, oh, okay. So if you go to this section, when you find the book, and it'll tell you which volume to go to, and you go to that volume, you pull it out. Guys, the reason this is golden is it will give you a little bit about the author. It'll give you a plot summary. I'm sure you've read your book and you understood it all.
We know you read the
we
entire
know
book.
you're not needing spark notes or anything, which these are kind of like. And then it also gives you the characters. It gives you themes. You're not there yet, but when you do your thesis, this is a good place to check. It might give you ideas of what to write about. But this is where it gets really exciting.
Yes.
In our nerdy opinions.
Yes, very exciting.
Do you want to show them?
Yes, it is the critical overview and then the literary criticisms. Every single time that you see literary criticism in novels for students, much like the CLCs, the TCLCs, the NCLCs, the Gale publishes, these also count as separate sources. So you can see this entire article by Michael J. O'Neill, all the way to here is another source. And then Coleman C. Myron has another source. And then Matthew Wilson has another source. So we are up to 4 sources alone in one book. Oh, Dean McWilliams, a 5th source in this book. So this one book has potentially 5 sources for your research paper in one book. Novels for Students is a fantastic resource.
And go to the last one, whichever one it is. Right now it's 45?
45, and check for your author in the Cumulative Author Title Index. Find your book, which one you need to go to. On your pink sheet, you just write down the volume number, and later, when you start your research, you can go back and find all of those sources that are available to you.
So guys, you're kind of making your roadmap. You're figuring out where you need to go when you come back to research. Real fast, before I let you free, before we send you out into the
Send you into
stacks,
the world.
you'd think it'd be standardized, like, oh, so they all have cumulative indexes. Oh, no, because they have different publishers and different ways of doing things. Literature in Its Times, great book. 5 volumes. Every volume you pick up has the complete index. So it doesn't matter if somebody else is using volume 5, don't worry about it. Just grab volume 1, volume 2. They all have this index in the back. And then, going back to the old days in elementary school where I think you were still using World Book, sometimes it's alphabetical. So the Critical Survey of Long Fiction, volume 2, is from BRO to DAV.
From Bro to Dave.
Yeah.
That's your author's last name. So what does your author's last name start with?
So you want to check that. So if I'm looking up Toni Morrison, I'm not going to find her.
to DAV. Morrison is MOR. She's not in this book.
So you have to go to a different volume. So that's basically it. Now, guys, I've used this analogy before. My husband's a gearhead. He loves cars. I'm bored out of my mind. Bored when he talks about them. So I'll just go like, yeah, whatever. Anyway, driving my car on the dashboard, the light came on. I was like, oh, I know he told me what to do and what this was about, but I didn't know, so I had to pull over and call, and that's embarrassing. We don't want you to have to pull over and call. If you didn't understand this video, watch it again. It'll make sense, I promise. But of course we are here to help you too. But really, this is for you. I promise this is going to help you with your research.
It will. We are all Bruins, so anybody that's an adult working in this library can help you with this process. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Thank you.